In today's world, beauty is often spoken of as if it has an expiration date, but that is an illusion, one of many the mind creates. True beauty matures like a tree. With each season, its presence deepens, not diminishes. So how do you know if you are a good-looking older woman, even if you do not feel like one? Let us return to simplicity, to stillness, and observe the quiet signs that speak louder than the mirror. To move with awareness is not simply to control the body, but to inhabit it fully. It is to reclaim each gesture from habit, to turn the unconscious into the conscious. And this, though it may appear ordinary to an untrained eye, is extraordinary. In a world that often urges speed over stillness and presentation over presence, a woman who moves with awareness is like water flowing through stone, gentle yet powerful, quiet yet unignorable. She carries no need to declare herself, yet people turn to look when she enters a room, not because of what she wears or the features of her face, but because of how she holds space. Such a woman walks without apology. Her posture does not ask for permission, nor does it demand attention. It simply is. She has lived long enough to realize that value cannot be begged for. It must be embodied. Her steps are not hurried. She does not rush to the next thing because she has learned to inhabit this moment. Each step, a decision, each breath, a return to herself, and when she stands, she is anchored, her weight is evenly placed. She is not leaning forward, desperate to arrive at something ahead, nor leaning back, clinging to what is gone. She is here, and her presence says more than her words. To move with awareness is not a performance, it is a practice. It arises from years of turning inward, from watching how emotions ripple through the body, from observing how anger clenches the jaw, how fear stiffens the shoulders, how peace softens the hands. A good-looking older woman does not just look elegant, she feels deeply and lets her body express that feeling with dignity, not drama. There is elegance in that restraint, in not reacting to every impulse, in allowing silence to speak when words are not needed. You may not notice it at first, but you feel it. Her timing, her stillness, her gentle pauses all signal a harmony within. This awareness is not something that comes from youth. It is cultivated through life, through experiences that taught her what to hold and what to let go. Through the 1,000 lessons that whisper, you don't need to be everywhere, or please everyone, or win every moment. And so, she does not fidget to fill silence, she does not overtalk to earn attention, she is not in a rush to prove anything. When she moves as herself, no longer driven by the gaze of others, but by the clarity of her own spirit. Her movement is a reflection of her mind, and her mind is not chaotic. She has visited her own thoughts often enough to know which are worth feeding and which are best left alone. Her gestures are not scattered, they are intentional. When she lifts a cup, her attention is on the cup. When she sits completely, not half scrolling, half listening, half living, but fully engaged in the now. This seems like a small thing. It is not. In a world fractured by multitasking, true presence is rare and magnetic. Her beauty lies in this wholeness, in not splitting her attention across 1,000 invisible demands, in not apologizing for taking her time, and not mistaking speed for success. There is nothing rushed about a blooming flower. And yet it turns the head of everyone who passes, not because it tries, because it exists fully in its own rhythm. Likewise, the good-looking older woman moves according to her own rhythm, a rhythm tuned by life's experiences. Loss, joy, failure, growth, all have contributed to the music she now follows. She does not dance to someone else's drum. She no longer needs to. Even her imperfections, the way her knees might creak when she rises, or the way time has softened her pace, only add to her aura. They speak of a body that has lived, that has carried children, climbed stairs of heartbreak and joy, danced at celebrations, stood through trials. Her body is not flawed, it is storied, and her awareness of it is tender, not critical. She knows when to rest and when to move. She has nothing to prove to the world, so she does not waste energy pretending. Her steps are grounded. She touches the earth lightly, but with certainty. There is no insecurity in her posture, no need to shrink or expand artificially. She takes up just enough space as is natural, and in that naturalness lies the beauty that draws others near. People may not be able to explain why they find her attractive, but they feel it. Her awareness creates a field around her, calm, composed, magnetic. It is not loud, but it is strong, not showy, but undeniable. She has become a mirror. In her presence, others remember what it feels like to slow down, to listen, to breathe, to return to themselves. Her awareness wakes up their own. And this is the paradox. The more she turns inward, the more she radiates outward. The more she rests in her own being, the more others feel seen and safe around her. To move with awareness is to live with reverence. It is to treat each movement not as automatic, but as sacred. To pour consciousness into the small, the way you open a door, the way you place a cup, the way you look into someone's eyes. These gestures, when filled with awareness, become beautiful because they are real. And so, if you wonder whether you are good, looking as you grow older, look not to the mirror first, but to your movement, to how you rise in the morning, to how you treat your body when no one is watching, to how you carry your energy in the quiet moments between tasks. Do you walk with peace? Do you move with respect for your own being? Do you inhabit your gestures, or do they escape you? Because beauty in its deepest form is not a shape, it is an energy, and when awareness flows through the body, it creates a kind of elegance that no youth, no product, no trend can ever match. It is the elegance of being fully alive. There comes a moment, often quietly, when a woman no longer seeks to be seen through borrowed eyes. She wakes up and realizes the applause that once seemed vital, the compliments that once sustained her, are not nourishment anymore. They are noise, and the silence of self-acceptance is far more nourishing. She did not reach this point suddenly. It was earned slowly, over time, through missteps, through disappointments, through the ache of realizing that approval is a shifting target, one that never stays still. When she was younger, perhaps she danced to catch the light, adjusting, bending, pleasing, a little more of this, a little less of that. Always reading the room before she entered it, measuring herself against the invisible standard that everyone carried but no one understood. And yet, with every year that passed, the price of chasing validation became clearer. The cost was authenticity. The cost was peace. Eventually, she stopped, not out of bitterness, not out of resignation, but from the simple truth, it is exhausting to chase what cannot be held. And more importantly, it is unnecessary. Now, she wears what she wants not to impress, but because it feels like her. She speaks when she has something to say, not when silence would make others uncomfortable. She no longer trims her thoughts to fit someone else's comfort. Her truth does not require explanation, only expression. She understands that validation is not the same as love. Validation is fleeting, conditional, transactional. One day it arrives like rain, the next it disappears without warning. But love, true love, does not ask you to edit yourself. It does not demand that you become more palatable, more fashionable, more youthful, more agreeable. And so, she no longer plays the game. She no longer wears the mask. It is not that she does not care how she is seen. It is that she knows how she sees herself is what truly shapes her experience. She has cultivated an inner mirror, one not polished by compliments, but by clarity. She has faced herself in silence, in solitude, in the raw truth of morning light. And in that space she saw something sacred. She was enough, even without applause. She does not reject praise, but she does not feed off it. If it comes, she accepts it with humility. If it does not, she remains undisturbed, because the garden she tends now is internal. Its roots grow deeper than anyone's opinion. People sense this in her. There is a certain freedom in the way she holds herself, a kind of dignity that does not beg to be noticed. She is not competing, and that alone sets her apart. While others clamor to be seen, she simply is, and that presence, that stillness, draws others in without effort. She does not interrupt silence to fill it. She does not pretend to know things she hasn't lived. Her wisdom is lived in. It does not sparkle like new shoes. It carries the softness of well-worn paths. There is no performance in her confidence. It is not loud. It is not rehearsed. It does not need affirmation. It just is, a quiet river flowing from the depth of self, understanding. When someone compliments her, she smiles, but her heart is not lifted by it. And when someone criticizes her, she listens, but her soul is not crushed. She has realized both are just wind. They pass through, but they do not change the mountain, and she is the mountain now. Not because she is unmoving, but because she is unshaken. There are those who might mistake this for arrogance, but it is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the peace that comes when the war for external approval ends. When the voice inside becomes louder than the noise outside. In her younger days, she may have looked outward for confirmation. Am I desirable? Am I good enough? Am I still relevant? But now she no longer waits for an answer. She has found it within. She defines herself, not in rebellion, but in remembrance, remembrance of her worth, her journey, her strength. All the nights she stood alone and did not break. All the times she was overlooked but kept growing. All the seasons of quiet evolution that no one celebrated but shaped her nonetheless. She is not hardened by life. She is softened by truth, because when you no longer chase validation, something else happens. You begin to see others clearly. You are no longer distracted by how they see you. You listen better, you judge less, you compare less. You meet people where they are not as rivals, but as fellow travelers. Your relationships deepen. They are no longer built on performance or reciprocity, but on honesty, on presence, on being enough without needing to earn it. And ironically, when you stop chasing validation, you often receive more of it. But by then, it doesn't define you. It simply passes through. Like sunlight through open windows, welcome but not necessary. She has grown past the need to be everyone's favorite. She would rather be real than liked. She would rather be peaceful than praised. This woman does not compete with younger versions of herself. She does not envy what she once was. She honors who she has become. She recognizes that beauty has not left. It has deepened, not into the skin, but into the soul, into the way she carries herself, into the way she uplifts others, not for approval, but from fullness. She lives from the inside out. And because of that, she shines not like a spotlight, but like a fire in the dark, quiet, steady, warm. And so, if you are a woman who no longer feels beautiful by conventional standards, pause. Take a breath. Feel the difference between being admired and being at peace. One fades, the other stays. When you no longer chase validation, you are no longer chained. You are no longer distracted from your purpose. You move from truth, not from reaction. And that, more than anything, is beauty that endures. Because what is more beautiful than a woman who no longer needs the world's permission to be herself? Nothing. She is not trying to be seen. She sees herself, and that is enough. There is a quiet kind of beauty that doesn't shout, doesn't sparkle under artificial lights, and doesn't ask to be recognized, but once seen, it is never forgotten. It lives in the eyes. When a woman has lived long enough, truly lived, not just existed, her eyes become something more than features on a face. They become a reflection of her soul's history. They carry the weight of memory and the lightness of grace. They carry stories not told in words, but in presence. In youth, the eyes are often praised for their brightness, for their shape, for their allure. But with time, something more precious settles into them, depth, a depth that cannot be bought or painted on. A depth that can only emerge through years of seeing, not just seeing what is beautiful or pleasurable, but seeing what is painful, complex, and real. These eyes have watched dreams rise and fall. They have witnessed beginnings and endings, the first cries of a newborn, the last breath of a loved one. They have seen betrayal, and yet still look with compassion. They have seen disappointment, but do not turn bitter. And because of that, they soften not with weakness, but with wisdom. Lines may form around them, yes, but those lines are not signs of loss. They are reminders, reminders of all the moments laughter was so full it etched itself into the skin. Reminders of nights spent in tears that eventually turned into peace. Reminders that this woman did not live on the surface of life, she went deep. When you look into the eyes of a woman who has known herself over time, you are not simply looking at a person. You are looking at a path. You are witnessing years of silence, resilience, letting go, and holding on. You are meeting a presence that has weathered storms not by fighting everything, but by learning how to bend and return. And so her beauty is not in perfection, it is in recognition. Her eyes recognize things. They see past the masks others wear. They notice the fatigue behind forced smiles. They catch what goes unsaid, because they have been there, because they have lived through silence and have come to understand its language. When she looks at you, you feel seen. Not examined, not judged, seen. Because she no longer needs to prove herself, her gaze is not filtered by insecurity. She is not trying to control what you think of her. She is simply present, and in that presence, others feel safe. She does not rush to react. She pauses, she considers, her eyes move slowly, not out of hesitation, but out of care. Out of depth because she knows not everything requires a response. Some things are just meant to be witnessed. There is something magnetic about that kind of gaze, not because it dazzles, but because it anchors. It calls people into stillness. It reminds them of something sacred that is often forgotten in the pace of everyday life, that we are all stories in motion. That being fully seen is one of the rarest gifts. Her eyes carry not just her own story, but those of others. The ones she has loved, lost, guided, forgiven, the ones who broke her and the ones who helped her heal. All of them live within the softness of her gaze, not as burdens, but as parts of her becoming. You cannot fake that softness. You cannot simulate that depth. It comes only when a woman has faced herself again and again through transitions, through losses, through letting go of illusions. And instead of closing her heart, she opened it further. Instead of hardening, she chose tenderness. She does not look with hunger for approval. She does not scan a room looking for validation. Her eyes rest, not dart. They listen, not interrupt, because she knows the difference between seeing and looking. And when she sees you, you feel it. She does not rush to define you. She allows you to be. Perhaps that is what makes her beautiful, not how her eyes appear, but how they make others feel. They carry a silent invitation. You don't have to pretend with me. And in a world that thrives on image and performance, that is a rare and healing thing. Some may say that beauty fades with time, but these eyes say otherwise. These eyes say beauty deepens. Beauty matures. Beauty shifts from the surface to the essence. She may not be complimented the way she once was. Strangers may not stop to tell her she's stunning. But when someone truly pays attention, they linger on her eyes, not out of desire, but out of respect. Out of reverence, because they feel something there that cannot be easily explained. And for the woman who carries these stories, there is no need to be loud about them. She does not retell every chapter. She does not need to. The wisdom is already visible, the kindness already felt. Her gaze holds a quiet power. It says, I know what it means to be broken and still walk with grace. It says, I know the cost of joy, and it was worth it. And even in solitude, her eyes remain alive. They still marvel at sunlight on leaves. They still well up at music. They still soften when holding a child's hand. They still search for beauty, not the kind that is sold, but the kind that simply is. Because once a woman learns to see herself clearly when she sees her own worth, not through mirrors or compliments, but through experience, her eyes reflect that clarity. She is not seeking to be noticed. She is noticing, and that presence is what transforms her from someone who was once admired for her looks into someone who is now respected for her being. So, if you have ever looked in the mirror and wondered whether time has made you invisible, remember this: your eyes carry everything that makes you unforgettable. Every wound, every joy, every lesson, every truth. They are not tired, they are seasoned. They are not dull, they are wise. You do not need to look younger, you only need to look honestly. Because, in the eyes of a woman who has truly lived, the world finds a deeper kind of beauty, one that cannot be packaged, replicated, or replaced. And perhaps the greatest beauty of all is this: the older you grow, the more your eyes become not just windows to your soul, but mirrors for others, showing them what it means to age, not just with grace, but with truth. There is a point in a woman's journey where something fundamental shifts, not in her appearance, but in her intention. The desire to impress begins to fall away. It is not that she has stopped caring, it is that she now cares differently. When she was younger, perhaps attention felt like fuel. Praise was confirmation. Being impressive brought her comfort, a sense of place in the world. She may have learned to read others quickly, adapt to their expectations, become what was pleasing, desirable, exciting. And for a while that worked. Attention came, compliments came, invitations came, but eventually she began to notice something. All of it was fleeting. The approval she worked so hard for would evaporate the moment she paused. She could dazzle a room and still feel unseen. She could impress someone deeply and still feel unloved, and so she began to look inward. Over time, something else started to grow in her, something quieter but more real. A longing not to impress others, but to support them, to uplift, to care in a way that nourished, not performed. Not to be admired from a distance, but to be useful, present, and healing. She began to understand that real strength lies not in decoration, but in devotion. She does not walk into a room now asking, "Do they see me?" She enters asking, "What energy do I bring here? How can I contribute peace, steadiness, warmth?" This shift is profound because it means she no longer interacts through the lens of personal gain. She listens not to respond, but to understand. She offers comfort, not because it makes her look kind, but because she is kind. She offers wisdom without needing to prove she's wise. She gives without calculation. This is what it means to nurture. It is not just a motherly instinct. It is not confined to raising children or taking care of others. Nurturing is a way of being, a conscious choice to water the seeds of growth in everyone and everything she touches. Her presence becomes soil soft enough for others to feel safe, strong enough for others to grow. When she speaks, her words are measured, not because she is cautious, but because she understands their power. She does not use words to impress, she uses them to heal. She does not speak to dominate, but to illuminate. She knows that sometimes silence is more powerful than advice, and sometimes simply being fully present is the greatest act of love. Her home, her presence, her relationships, these are not stages for performance. They are gardens. She tends to them with care, patience, and honesty. She listens to what each one needs. She no longer decorates her life to appear a certain way. She cultivates it to feel a certain way. Peaceful, whole, real. In the past, she may have dressed a certain way to turn heads. Now, she dresses in a way that honors her body, her season, her spirit. She adorns herself not for reaction, but for resonance. Her style becomes an extension of her values, not a mask. To nurture rather than impress also means that she no longer looks at other women as competition. She has outgrown that. She is not interested in hierarchy: who is prettier, who is more admired, who is more envied. She knows that every woman is on her own timeline. She honors her sisters not by comparison, but by care. She uplifts instead of competing. She encourages instead of evaluating. She celebrates others without losing sight of herself, and that, too, is part of her quiet power. She makes others feel safe to be imperfect around her. Because she no longer needs to hide her own imperfections. She has befriended them. She no longer hides behind masks. She has found strength in being transparent, not flawless. She does not spend time trying to maintain an image. She spends time building a life that feels meaningful. This does not mean she has stopped trying or growing. It means her effort is rooted in service, not performance. In care, not competition, and people notice, not in the way they notice flashy things, but in the way one notices warmth on a cold day. They feel better after speaking with her, though they may not be able to say why. They leave her presence feeling more grounded, more heard, more human. That is the mark she leaves. She has become a space, not a show, a refuge, not a spectacle. Even in her appearance there is a softness that cannot be faked. Her beauty is not loud, but it is lasting. It is not in the sharpness of youth, but in the gentleness of wisdom. It is in the way she carries herself with reverence, not rush, with simplicity, not strategy. She no longer decorates her life for likes. She enriches it for meaning. This woman nurtures herself too. She no longer drives herself to burn, out to meet others' expectations. She no longer sacrifices her peace for approval. She understands that to pour into others, her own cup must be full. So she rests, she reflects, she says no without guilt. She says yes without fear, and in doing so, she teaches others how to honor themselves. Not through preaching, but through example. Even in silence, she nourishes. Because when a woman stops trying to impress and starts choosing to nurture, everything changes not just for her, but for everyone around her. She becomes a quiet revolution, a reminder that you don't have to shine constantly to be valuable, that you don't have to be exciting to be important, that you don't have to be impressive to be unforgettable. Nurturing is not glamorous, it is not always visible, but it is enduring, and she is okay with not being remembered for how stunning she looked, how witty she was, or how much she achieved. She is content to be remembered for how she made people feel, for how safe it felt to be in her presence, for the warmth of her gaze, the calm of her voice, the honesty in her silence. She knows now, legacy is not built by being impressive. It is built by being loving, and love, real love, the kind that asks nothing in return, is the most beautiful thing of all.